Hello, and welcome to the Philosopher and the Fool. The Fool and the Philosopher.
Hi. So I wanted to continue upon the last two episodes where I was trying to think of examples of what you say matters more than what you do.
Yeah.
So I thought of some really good examples. It's the same example, but it's done everywhere. Which is done, like Facebook just announced their plans to do this, and the 2 out of the 4 governments in Canada do this, and half of them in the United States do. So this is pluses in Canadian law. Discriminatory hiring practices are codified in Canadian law, and they are policy of many companies, as well as like Facebook just announced they want to do it, the BBC announced they want to do it, the NDP has it as a requirement, the Liberals have it as a requirement. So they will hire you based on your race and gender.
But isn't that illegal in Canadian law as well?
Yes, but we have exceptions. So it's a policy that I don't know how they get away with it, actually. But
I've always wondered how you get away with it.
The NDP and the Liberals do say, like, we have quotas for women and for minorities. Mm-hmm. However, the First Nation preferential hiring is an exemption to our non-discriminatory hiring laws. And this is a weird one because in most countries, I think you would just say that's straight up racism.
Yeah.
In Canada, we are trying to do the impossible by having 2 governments. Well, we're trying to have like dozens of governments under one system. And so the First Nation, like, a hiring practice to not have, like immigrants or something. Like you hire locals first, like make your country strong first. I don't know. Even then, you're essentially saying that everyone that isn't First Nation is a foreigner, I guess, if you look at it that way, which depends how far back you go. Everyone came here at some point.
Yeah. I
don't think that is the reasoning. I think the reasoning is similar to why the French get special benefits, because they were there first and something. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm trying to think of a justification, but we in Canadian law, preferential hiring to First Nations.
I know part of the reason for it. And it's basically to encourage First Nation people to apply for jobs in those positions because they have a better chance of getting them, basically. It's like, hey, if you apply for this job, you'll probably get it, and then you have them employed. And it's basically trying to do a recovery from the schools.
Yeah. But the problem with that, I find, is, well, there's 2 parts. You say, you're too stupid to get a job, so here you go. But the schools were an unfair thing that lasted until like the 80s or something. Like, that was very recent, the residential schools. And I think there was even some that weren't dismantled until like 2008 or something, if I remember, but I could be wrong. But very recent. There's many people alive today that were negatively impacted by this.
Yeah.
But there's people that had their houses burned down, were mugged, have PTSD. There's so many disadvantages.
But the government didn't do that to them, and it's the government's guilt.
Yeah, but what about like veterans, for example? Like, veterans in theory are looked after.
Yeah.
But, right, veterans are looked after. But on the other hand, there are First Nations that never went through residential schools or are doing quite well, and they are getting the same benefits.
Yeah.
So you are...
painting with a wide brush is much easier.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of like universal basic income.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to give $1,000 a month or whatever to billionaires.
Yeah.
But, well, it's easier than... you will save more money giving $1,000 to the 3 billionaires in your country than to hiring someone for $50,000 a year to make sure the money goes to the right places, I guess.
There's a teacher at the high school we went to who's native. And they basically, like, he's looking at the program, and he said, you guys are seriously going to pay for me to go to university? And they said, yes. He's like, okay. And so he went to the most expensive university in the United States he could find that had a program he wanted to learn how to become a teacher and a coach. Because he's like, I'll take advantage of this.
Yeah. And First Nations do.
Mm-hmm.
My friends do. And I mean, good for them. If I had an unfair advantage, I'd jump on it. And I wouldn't think it was fair, but, if it's there, why not?
Yeah. No, I always felt that was kind of weird because we'd have this thing, which is like, if you're a First Nation, you could go to this room and get pizza in our high school, like on certain days. And I was always like, why can't I go get pizza? And like a part of that is that there's a lot of them don't have lunch or whatever, so help them out. But I remember talking to the person in charge of that program at some point, and she said, if you don't have lunch and like the soup's out, I'll just give you food. Like she was very good, that person who was in charge of that. I was like, this program's just like like we say it's for this, but if you don't have lunch, then I'll take care of you.
I think the logic behind those school programs is kind of weird, but I think there's a logic behind it, which goes something like this. The school isn't actually paying for that, and neither is the Canadian government or the provincial or territorial government. It's actually the First Nation themselves paying for it. So, in order to be a Canadian who supports the idea of First Nation governments being self-autonomous, you kind of have to be anti-immigration and open borders. Because it's the same idea of a socialist country cannot have open borders because you can't give your money to immigrants or to refugees. And Canada actually is a very restrictive country. We don't let many people in. But we seem to get to dodge the controversies, whereas the United States, which is actually a fairly accepting of immigrants country and refugees, gets all sorts of flack for not doing enough. And it's kind of funny. It's another one of those things where what is said is, oh yeah, we respect and support all people and everyone should be welcome here. And what is done is actually, like, we say the opposite and do the opposite of the States. Kind of. Like, the States actually takes in a huge amount of people and helps them out.
There's a polling ball comic, which has Canadian polling ball, and European polling balls are basically berating it for something horrible Canada did. And then the United States polling ball shows up, and the Canadian one has like the little happy eyeballs, and it's hiding behind the United States, and they're all berating the United States, and the United States looks sad. And it goes back to all them berating Canada for something else bad did. And then they berate the United States, and the Canadian polling ball is happy again because you can hide in the United States shadow.
Yeah, but it's funny because we actually have discrimination written into our law, and that is something that is done, but as long as the party of inclusion and acceptance is the Liberals or the NDP, they get away with it. Whereas the Conservatives, who do not have as far as I'm aware, a practice of discriminatory hiring, is put on the side of... I had a friend say to me recently, actually, and I couldn't think of an example at the time, so if you're listening, here's my example now. But he said he considers the right to be commonly associated with bigotry, which I think he's correct.
Yeah.
And he couldn't think of examples of left-wing bigotry, and I couldn't either at the moment. But I think the normal right wing and the normal left wing, as in the mode, like the most popular expression of it, the right wing isn't bigoted, whereas the left wing is massively so. And you see it in tons of little things, like there should be money given to these people because they don't have any money and they're poor and they're stupid and they look like orcs. And whatever, like there's a lot of stuff like that where the bigotry and racism of enshrouded in law, of low expectations, of the thing is, if you need to say that like 30% of your, or 12% or 10% or whatever of your party needs to be First Nation or Black or Asian or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You're saying they couldn't get there on their own.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at a lot of industries, like let's go with, teaching actually, makeup, fashion. Fashion's a bit more divided though. Daycares.
Yeah.
What's all these bigots keeping men out? We need more men in them or something. And what about, and then you look at stuff like logging and sewage workers and whatnot, where
garbage men, or not garbage men, but waste disposal.
Yeah, you need. There's not as much of a fight to get women into them.
Trucking, heavy duty construction.
Yeah, although I think there might be more of a push to get them into those sort of things now. But if you look at a country like Sweden, like this is all old stuff. My point is just that the progressives, I think, would be a much better term to say, because I think a lot of the left still doesn't agree with this sort of thing. Yeah. Although I think they're diminishing, because I think the thing about the left is they're evil. And the reason they're evil is because they think they're the good guys. And that allows you to get away with anything. I think it was C.S. Lewis.
So long as we're doing it in the name of God, we can do no wrong.
Well, C.S. Lewis said, the tyrant that is doing it for the good of the people that he is oppressing can sleep soundly at night.
Yeah.
Because it's all...
Yeah, I must do this for the good of my people.
Yeah. And I think that the right, in general, is selfish. And so they know if they're doing it for themselves or for others, and they want the option for that to happen.
Yeah.
And these are very broad generalizations, but I think if you think of yourself as the good guys, you can get away with anything, and you can justify anything to yourself. And that seems to be what the left wing does as a party. I don't really think that the left and right the idea of left and right is even a bit weird, because you've got, I don't know, a lot tied up into it, like authoritarianism and liberalism. And so the right is what? The traditionalists, and the left would be the libertarians almost. But then that has very much changed to progressive and conservative, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
it's all... I've never quite understood the left-right distinction, actually.
It's
individualism versus socialism or something. And
there's levels to individual...
Communism is communalism, something.
Yeah. It's, I think, people who... The leftist people who look ahead and, like, a very harsh... No, even we can do this in a way that's kind of both of them. The leftist people who look ahead and try to get to what they want they see in the future.
And the right is the people that get you there.
The right is people who look behind and see what they have had, how it's gotten us here, and they keep it running.
Yeah.
So they see what's in the past and what worked, and they're going to keep on working on what worked because it's running our ship right now.
So you've got the right is the engineer in the boiler room, and the left is the spotter in the crow's nest or something.
Yeah.
And then they're both trying to tell the captain what to do.
Yeah.
And the one's like, if we go there, there'll be a rich land full of fresh fruit and spices. And the engineer's like, we can't get there right now. We're going. And they're like,
we can't get there right now. We need to stop at this port and get some more fuel.
Or we need to drive slower or something.
Yeah.
And then the left is like, but we could get a better boat if we just got there right now. Or like, so neither is wrong on about half of the stuff, but there's no way to tell which half they're right about.
Yeah. And also, looking behind...
Well, actually, I think they're wrong about everything, both of them. But
in looking behind, we've made mistakes in the past. And so you have to be able to recognize those mistakes. And sometimes it's you cling to your mistakes because it's what you've always done. Yeah. And when looking to the future...
Well, I think it's not you cling to your mistakes, it's you don't believe it can get better.
Yeah. And then looking into the future, you can disdain the past because the future is so much better.
And you reject tradition and wisdom. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's intelligence versus wisdom almost, I guess.
Yeah.
To a certain degree.
In some ways.
Probably a bit too...
Like, a balanced person, so to say, would basically have to do both in a certain amount. Like, they would have to look to the future, they would look to the past. And looking in the past, they would see the future. Like, that's kind of secular and nonsensical. It's sensical in some ways, but it's like, okay, I'm looking into the future, and I see where I want to go. And then you look behind you, and it's like, is this boat going to float long enough for me to get there? And then you're looking at your boat, and like, hey, that part there is a very interesting idea. I'm going to improve it. And then you look to the future because you're going to improve it. And so you have to, like, do both.
Yeah, that's left and right, future and present, I think, more than past. Although a little bit of past, I guess. Yeah. Clinging to the things that worked, and then the past is wanting to have better things.
Mm-hmm.
At the expense of potentially
the future.
Getting rid of the things that worked.
Yeah.
No, expense of the present or the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think
being left or right works.
I don't think that either is wrong.
Yeah, but I don't think being solely one works.
No, I think the healthy thing for a government, which is fortunate, is what they tend to do is flip-flopping back and forth. Hopefully waggle in the right direction. Although both seem to be, in a governmental sense, just moving towards authoritarianism and tyranny. Because whenever one implements something to give itself more power, the other keeps it and then adds their own.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Conservatives in Canada back in 2014, I think, introduced laws to be able to spy on suspected terrorists, I believe it was. And as far as I'm aware, those have never been gotten rid of by the... I thought when my college professors were calling the Conservative government fascists, mm-hmm. they were talking about that sort of thing. But yeah. I now wonder... Do you wonder as well?
No.
Okay.
You now wonder what about them?
Why they were calling them fascists.
Well, I think it's a mix of things why your professors might have done that.
Well, I thought it... So what I was saying was, I thought that the professors were calling the government fascist because they were implementing literal fascist authoritarian doctrine.
Yeah.
But now I wonder if it was just because they disagreed with them. Because they were college professors.
I think it's probably a mix.
Because the people they really wanted to get in, like the Liberals... Well, the Liberals in Canada aren't really left. They're a centrist party. But they were... they haven't, not been authoritarian. They said they would do voting reform. They didn't do that. They just try to please everyone and kind of...
See...
Probably what you want from a leader, really, in some ways.
So, a problem with being in government, and this is kind of the interesting thing about the United States having a limit on how long you can have a president, is that if the president gets in for a second term, that's when they actually start doing stuff, compared to their first term where they're thinking about getting reelected. And in Canada, we have a limited term, so you're always thinking about being reelected, so you're trying to please everyone. And so it's kind of a problem of you're in fears of not being good to everyone. I mean, government should try to be good to everyone, but basically it's like we have to try to stay in power. And so part of being in government, like a large part, is trying to stay in power. So should there almost be, just for Canadian government, okay, you've gone through your term, your party's dissolved until next term, and then they can be start again. You can't be in charge for a second term. You're going to get dissolved, and then you have to reform, and like other parties.
So if you're successful, you're kicked out?
Well, maybe.
So I actually thought of a voting reform that would be very simple to implement and would fix, I think, most voting systems around the world.
Yeah.
It's not an assassination monarchy thing.
No.
Instead, so this would be really good in the United States and in Canada, I think, which is interesting because that's a 2-party system and a 3-party system.
5.
3. We have 3 that can get in.
Quebec has done pretty well.
But not for the country.
No.
But the interesting thing is that I think this would actually lend itself to having more parties have a chance of getting in.
Yeah.
So let's take the example everyone knows of the United States.
Yeah.
So back in 2016, when they were voting between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, there was a radio show I was listening to with an American, and people were asking him who he's going to vote for. And he said, well, I really don't want Trump to get in, and I really don't want Clinton to get in. And the thing is, when you vote for the lesser evil, you are still voting for an evil.
Yeah.
so I'm not going to vote for anyone. And a lot of people took this sort of approach during that election. Mm-hmm. But there was people like Jenna Bain who voted for the Libertarian Party. And Total Biscuit, her husband, got mad at her online, which was unfortunate that it happened. And, he was going through a rough time, so I don't really blame him for that sort of thing. Yeah. But that's something you should keep to your family. Yeah. But he got mad at her for that because the conservatives, or no, they don't call them that, the Republicans, were going to change the healthcare system to make it more expensive or difficult to receive treatment. Yeah. But she couldn't, in good consciousness, vote for the Democrats. Yeah. So she helped, in quotation marks, Trump win. And in Canada, you see a lot of this where people really want the Conservatives out, so they'll vote for the Liberals. Yeah. And then they'll really want the Liberals out, so they'll vote for the Conservatives. Yeah. And the Democrats and the NDP are just considered a way to split your vote and fail. Yeah. And in the United States, voting for the Libertarians or the Greens, which don't even exist, really, is considered a way to just help whatever party win. Mm-hmm. And same with voting for someone like Kanye or something. You're just losing votes for whoever you want to win. So, and I don't think people should have to do that. And right now in Canada, we have parties all around the country for the provincial and territorial elections, calling elections in the middle of a pandemic because they think they've been handling the pandemic very well. So they're putting people at risk because they think they'll vote for them because they haven't put them at risk, essentially. Yeah. Which means I really don't want to vote for them. But if I vote opposite them, then someone that I don't want will get in, essentially, because there's 4 parties. Yeah. So there's no one I want to vote for. And so I can't in good consciousness vote against them so I don't want the Liberals to get in, let's say. Yeah. But I can't vote for the Conservatives in good consciousness to kick them out. Yeah. And I can't vote for the NDP in good consciousness to kick them out. So then I just have to not vote, and then the Liberals probably get in again. Yeah. So that kind of sucks. So here's my voting system. You have, when you go up to the ballot office, they ask you, what form do you want? And you can get either a red slip or a white slip, let's say. Right. And if they give you the red slip, they're both identical, they're just in color. But the red slip, if you mark a party on it, that is a -1 vote towards that party. Which means, if you look at something like the United States, suddenly you have Trump with like 10 votes and Hillary with like 9 votes and the Libertarians with like 10,000. Mm-hmm. And then they win. And so you're like, I don't care who wins as long as this person doesn't win. And so in here, I don't want the Liberals in. That's it. Yeah. Now in good consciousness, I can vote and kick them out. And then that gives the smaller parties like the NDP and the Green a chance to come in. Yeah. And it also means that you don't have votes split because...
And you also don't vote defensively.
Yeah. Like, it gets rid of... Because defensive voting is the thing I really don't like. Yeah. And so, for example, if you're like, okay, because in Canada we have 3 left-wing parties and 1 right-wing party.
Right, but Cameron, people are just too stupid. Voting's already hard enough. That's far too complicated, so it just has to stay the way it was, and that's why we don't have any voting reform whatsoever, because people are idiots.
But we have 3 left-wing parties in Canada, and 1 right-wing party. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, well, for the right-wing, it's very easy. You vote for the Conservatives. Yeah. For the left-wing, they're always talking about tactical voting. Just vote for the Conservatives as well, but with your red ballot. Yeah. And then you don't care who wins. Mm-hmm. And the people that actually care about the party get that party in. Yeah. And then the Liberals never win again. And
well, there's this interesting thing. So on the radio, they're talking about our election, where we are. And it's like, are you voting for the leader or the party? And someone's like, oh, I always vote for the party. And another person's saying like, oh, I'm voting for this leader. And then other people are like, you missed the third one, which is like voting for the representative in your area. And for me, I find it this election very hard at a different reason, kind of similar to you, but a different perspective. And it's because I've served in our legislature. And it's like, I am not a fan, basically, of the people in that office. And I don't want to vote for one group because a large amount of them were, as I saw, not incompetent, but from what I saw at my time, they didn't seem to do a whole lot in those meetings. And they filibustered, and that really annoyed me because it's really, really dull. And then...
It should be exciting. There should be duels in the court.
Apparently we've had a fist fight in ours. And then...
It's probably a good thing if politics are boring.
Yeah.
That's probably a good sign.
Sergeant of Arms doesn't have to hit someone with a silver club. And then, like, the same for liberals, it's like, okay, I sort of liked them before they were in power. Like, our liberals up here. When they had, like, a ridiculous minority, they only had one guy in. But then when they got a majority, it's like, okay, just calling the elections kind of turned me off them.
I think you have...
But then the third party, I just didn't like them.
You have... Yeah. Maybe it's best to be circumspect.
Yeah.
So you got the Nazis, you've got the commies, and you've got two racist parties, and you've got three that waste money, and you've got yeah. And then you've got the shining beacon of glory that is the Greens, who are perfect in every way, just like No Man's Sky, because
we've never seen them.
We've never seen them, so they must complete all our dreams and fulfill all our wishes.
Well, okay, so here's the thing about the Green Party.
And their former leader got drunk at a official reception and started insulting other leaders and was very unprofessional. Yeah.
Here's, besides their leadership, the policy of the Green Party, here's why I like them, okay? So, I actually like a lot of...
They're conservatives that care about the environment.
Yeah, I like a lot of Conservative Party points. And I think a lot of Canadians do. However, a lot of Canadians go... environment's important, and we need to diversify from oil and gas and mining coal. Like, we need to diversify from those. So it's like, I would vote for Conservatives, but they seem to really, really like oil.
Well, they're also not conservatives.
Yeah.
They keep changing things radically.
Mm-hmm. No, there's that too. So it's like, from our perspective, the Green Party is actually Conservatives. In actual fact, they want to conserve environment. And they're conservative.
So you had a... great segue there.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. So, I noticed, just now, I even noticed when I said it, where I said and just used like a lot, although I didn't do as much as one podcast. I was editing a podcast, and it's quite a shame, because we were talking about a very interesting subject, and it has some of my favorite art I've done. But I don't feel super good about how we performed, especially myself, in the way I spoke and you spoke a little bit, but because I was using like a whole bunch. And so, in a bleary state of it being 2 o'clock in the morning, because art takes a long time to draw, I decided also to look up why we say like so much, because that was one of the big problems. We kept saying like a whole lot. And it's actually... a lot of mixed opinions about it. It's a very interesting thing, but I think I've sort of nailed it down. So one of the things I didn't know, though, is saying like is very, very, very old in English. Like, I want you to guess sort of how long we've had it around. Not the word like, but just using a term similar to it and what's it involved into.
Using like specifically, or... using and that sort of thing.
No, but it had older versions of itself, but we still used it. The and has been for time immemorial, but the word like itself.
So what are you doing when you say like? This is like, so you are trying to say that you're trying to express a simile, basically.
Yes.
So I would guess the 1400s.
That's about around there.
Yeah.
So, like was originally lich.
Lich.
Yes.
Doesn't that mean body?
Yes, it does. However, body doesn't need to mean corpse. It means the body of everything, the body of an idea.
So it contains this concept.
Yeah, lich. And so it's the whole description. It's whole description one word. It evolved into likecoin, or lichon.
Okay.
So like involved in that, and then became like because like a ton of our words, we've shortened them and we change them over time. But like is actually in a ton of other words, like life, so it's like life. Basically any of those you can think of. And there's a whole bunch of I can't remember. Anyways, so like is, as you said, a whole description in one word. It's the body of something. And so when I was looking this up, it's saying, I think these are trying to make people feel better about themselves. So it's like, people who say like a lot are actually very considerate in sentences. And
they're wishy-washy.
They're thinking a lot. No, that's not the case. And others are calling it like a bad habit you have to stop because it's super annoying.
Agreed.
And it is super annoying, but it's not super annoying for two people who are doing it to each other. It is super annoying for someone listening in, or if you listen in after the fact.
I found it annoying at the time.
Yeah, well...
But I was listening to our conversation.
Yes.
Which I don't normally do, to be fair.
Mm-hmm. But, so what it... And some say it's like, oh, it's endearing. Like, it's an endearing thing to do in conversation. That's one of the other things I found from researching it. But basically what it is... Well, it's three things. So, one of them is like that, You are giving yourself time to think with it because you can use it to fill in spaces. Another thing is it's a full stop. So in what are they called? The old like beep 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 sending
telegrams?
Yeah, telegrams where you go stop, say another sentence, stop, another sentence. So it's using those while speaking to someone. So you'll have your sentence, you'll have an idea. So I went to the mall. Like. So that is that idea, I've contained it now. And then you've also said like, so you can start the next sentence. And I saw someone like. So that's a weird way of putting it, but so there's stops in there. And so we already have two reasons people use it. And if you can use it instead of so it's easy. And you can use it to preference your thoughts, so it's easy. And the third reason is the whole description of one word. So you're trying to express something to someone, you're having a conversation. But saying a simile takes a long time. Or saying idea. Or if that person really gets you, and like you know each other, you really know each other, you can just go, it's like, and I was like. And that there is you're describing everything you need to say in that without actually saying it. But if they're caught up in the conversation and they know you, they can get it. And so if you're listening to that or listening to other people saying that, or you don't know what the person's talking about, it is super annoying because they are speaking gibberish that sounds like our language.
I think part of it is that what we have to remember is that language isn't just
a form of communication.
Somatic?
Yeah.
Is that the word? I don't think so. Anyways, you do this a lot. I think more than average, but everyone does it, which is... So let's say you're describing a meal. I've noticed this with you.
Yes.
You'll say, it's a really good meal. I can't even do it. Tell me, imagine something's like a meal. Tell me something's like a meal.
You made me self-conscious. I can't do it anymore.
Okay. I think that inflection, at least in English, is very important for words. So when you say like, every like is different. Mm-hmm. It was like, they're all different meanings. Mm-hmm. So you're encapsulating a feeling using a tone, and you have a tone capturing word.
Yeah, you have a word which is everything.
I think another word which does this, if this is correct, the theorizing and everything, is interesting, because it is used a lot. People will say, this is interesting. It has very interesting. Unique is another one. Yeah. This has very unique properties. The Spiffing Brit uses fantastic a lot.
I have a friend who says that's super cute or cute. And they use that basically everywhere.
To encapsulate everything. Yeah.
Yes. But with like, because it's an old word, and we've used it a lot. And that actually has power. I know it sounds a little mystical, but old words that we've used a lot involved over time have power. Like the word I is insanely powerful. Same with the word the. That has a lot of force to it as well.
Eyeball.
Well, that's just weird.
It's about as old as like, if like's from the 1400s.
It is. Anyways, there's those three different reasons to use like, and they all play into each other. But once you start doing something in a conversation, it can become a habit, and you notice this basically when you're talking, is you pick up a rhythm in a way of talking. And like can pick up insane rhythm and also momentum. And I was noticing this in that podcast. I started doing it more and more and more and more and more. And then that word becomes more important than any other word in the conversation because it has three different meanings all at once, and you're using it basically to have the conversation. The other words are just to fill in so the conversation actually works.
You're trying to express pure emotion and unfiltered thought through language, and you're giving up on the language to do so.
Yes.
I wonder if eyeball, you can use a radio voice to just eyeball conversation, eyeball. And
that was one of the things...
I wonder if that's the point of radio voices, is to get you into a different mindset so you're not following the habits. Over to you, Connor.
One of the things that, when I was looking up how to stop saying like, because that came up a lot just in there, it is put a different word into the sentence. Or pause, like I've been pausing. I'm just being very careful right now. And so I sound a bit like Justin Trudeau in my way of speaking. But that poor guy has like a native language versus then having to speak English the whole time. Must be very confusing. Anyways, so you can fill in words, or if you change your voice, then you can make yourself self-conscious of things. And that you might be right about the radio voice.
That's a fascinating idea. So this just in, actually. We got Jimmy on the phone. Hey, Jimmy. Oh, so Jimmy's saying that he's got a man on the line with him, and he wants to put him through to us. You ready to take a call?
Sure.
All right, Jimmy, put him on. Here you go, Connor.
Hello.
Hello. This is Evil Corp here. So we just got a time machine in. Hitler killing time machine special. Goes back in time, lets you kill Hitler. Hitler. That name sounds weird. Hitler. Yes. Hello. Right. Would you like a Hitler killing time machine?
We've already had this conversation.
I don't think so. Because I'm going to give you a Hitler killing time machine, right? So now you are now the proud owner of Hitler killing time machine because you are our first person we have called. Congratulations. You've won the draw. Okay. So here's the thing. We'll give you $500 not to use it.
Okay. Sure.
You sure? You're going to just let that dictator
go
on about his business? You could prevent so much wars, devastation. Landslides.
It's already happened.
Right. Rather cruel of you. There's a lot of people out there who would take this opportunity and drop of a hat.
It's already happened. I don't want to change what's going on. I'm quite happy where I am in the present.
Bit of a fatalist, I see. Right. Well, there's other people out there. So, tell you what. We're going to phone up the next person, and the first person that accepts it, we're going to give him a time machine. And they're going to go back in time and kill Hitler. So, here's the deal. If you tell us not to, we won't.
Okay, don't do it.
Don't tell us. But, here's the thing. Before you answer... We'll give you $500 if you don't tell us not to do it.
Don't do it.
We'll give you $1 million.
Don't do it.
You are now causing endless devastation and spending and losing $1,000 at the same time.
Yep. $1 million, actually.
Yes. Okay, $1 billion. That's a lot of money.
Don't do it.
And you're killing Hitler indirectly. You're taking Hitler killing away from someone else right now.
Yep.
That's basically theft.
Yep.
You're the thief of dreams.
Yep.
You caused the rain. And not the rain in a desert, but the rain in a place that already had too much rain.
Yep.
Landslides, hurricanes. That's you. You
Yep.
did that. You kill Hitler, there's no more hurricanes. How about that?
Nope, not going to kill him.
All right, what about we'll get rid of half the tornadoes as well?
Still not going to do it.
We'll kill a dingo pack.
Still not going to do it.
The one that takes the children.
There's no proof of that.
We'll
the jury's still out if she killed
We'll
her
add an
child.
ancient city under the ocean for you to discover in 10 years. Pretty exciting.
Anything else you can throw in?
A monolith on a mountaintop that no one's been to before.
Still no.
Volcanoes will reverse explode.
That doesn't sound very good.
All right. Well, obviously, you don't want to take advantage of this special deal. But fortunately, since you are our first caller of the day, we have another offer for you. We have a different time machine, which will take you back in time to kill God. Now, here's the thing, right? We will give you $5 if you use our time machine to go back and kill God. Now, here, the timing is important. It sends you to the point after he's already created everything, except morality.
No.
So just go back in time and kill God.
No.
Why not?
Sounds ridiculous.
What? You don't want $5?
Oh, is this a question of God created morality or not?
No, he did. So do you want $5 to go and kill God before he creates morality?
No.
Why not?
It's immoral.
No, it's not. There is no morality if you do it.
But I have morality right now, so it is. And if I don't do it...
That's just an addiction topic.
If I don't do it, right... Oh, this is just going to get in Pathfinder. Okay. If I do it,
yes,
then there will be no morality, and it'll be fine. But if I don't do it, then doing it would be wrong because there is morality. And so because I'm not going to do it, it's wrong.
Yes, but if you do it, it's fine.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do it.
And you got $5.
But I'm not going to do it, so it's wrong.
It's a free $5.
The $5 doesn't matter.
Nothing else would change.
The $5 does not matter.
Well, it would if you killed him.
But because I'm not, it won't.
But because you do it will.
But I'm not going to do it.
This is free $5. There is no reason not to do it, because if you do it, then nothing's bad.
But as an observer right now, I know that would be bad. So
would you shoot a man in the head to save their life?
How would that even work?
Because you killed him before he was able to assassinate himself.
He would be dead either way. I'm not going to...
No, because you would have killed him, so he wouldn't have died.
But he's dead because I killed him.
No, because he's dead, so he can't kill himself. So he's alive.
No, he isn't. He's dead.
No, but you killed him, so he's not.
I'm going to hang up.
No, wait. No. This is important, right? See, there's a man who in the future becomes a time-traveling assassin. And he goes back in time to kill himself. But you kill him before he can do so. And therefore, he is never scarred by the attempt on his life and become...
And then I never have a reason to kill him. Thus, we have a paradox.
No, we don't, because all you have to do is kill him and then he survives.
Look, I am not going to get involved with what he chooses to do to himself.
Right. We'll give you $10 to kill God.
No.
30?
The money doesn't matter.
Right. We will threaten God at gunpoint to make money matter and then shoot him before he can get around to morality.
That doesn't matter. I'm not going to mess up morality.
But there's no downside.
You know Wheel of Time? No, that's massive spoilers. Never mind. But...
we'll go back in time to before you gave away the spoilers and prevent it from happening. But, jeez, now I can't read that series. You ruined it for me. Thanks. 1 second. All right, all better.
Right. So, right now I have morality.
Yes.
And so it's immoral for me to get rid of morality.
Yes.
In the present.
Yes.
And... as of right now, that is an immoral thing to do.
You are a smoker, therefore you cannot quit smoking, because by definition then you would not be a smoker.
No.
Yes.
No. Because I don't want to quit morality.
That's what you're telling yourself because you're addicted.
Yeah, I'm fine with this addiction. I will let this addiction kill me.
Sounds like you're in denial.
I'm not in denial. It's like saying you could be addicted to being a good Samaritan.
Yeah. You know how many people die jumping in front of buses to save children? Morality is the leading cause of death. Think about all the lives you'd save.
You get isekai if that happens, though, and then you get to go to a fantasy world.
You're speaking gibberish.
So are you.
No, I'm not. I'm speaking time travel. Okay, fine. Let's go back to Hitler then. Okay, you'll kill Hitler, but nothing changes.
Then nothing changes, so there's no reason to have blood on my hands.
Except you make money.
I am not a hitman.
You're a Hitler man.
That doesn't even make sense.
Don't you... Look, you go... Would you... Right. Would you shoot a man if it wouldn't kill him and he never knew about it and
No.
it didn't injure him?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't really have the experience of shooting someone.
You hate new things? Do you also not like it when the restaurant brings you something that isn't a hamburger with chips on the side? What are they called? French fries? Sorry, right, this is the British division of Evil Corp. We're doing our best.
I judge shooting someone in my own person. The action of shooting someone is wrong.
What if it was Hitler?
That's messing with time, and that's wrong.
But you're not messing with time because you're doing it now, not then.
Okay, but the only reason why I would shoot him is to stop things from happening in the future.
If we talked to someone in the 1940s about shooting Hitler, that would be messing with time because now is the 2020s. But if we ask you, then we're not messing with time because it's already happened. So the past has already happened, so you can't change it. But if we went into the past and asked someone, then the future hasn't happened yet, so then they would change it.
But you're changing it, which is the wrongness in itself.
No, but we're not changing it because the past already happened, so...
Look, you can ask someone else for your Ponzi schemes. I'm not interested.
Would you punch God in the nuts for $100?
Yes.
Right. Well, have a good day.
Have $100?
No, because you didn't get rid of morality, so we can choose to do evil. Oh, that was great, Jimmy. Thanks for the call. We'll next order of business then. It's an interesting question, though, isn't it? Like, would you do wrong to get rid of wrong itself? Because then you would have never done wrong. And who would know? Also, you have to shoot the part of your memory that would remember. You see, people seem to have a sense that the past is real. You notice that?
Yeah.
Like, if you said, I went back in time and changed the future, then that's already happened. And so...
You don't need to go back in time and change
the previous past never happened. That world never existed. There is no record of it ever happening. Everything is as it is now. Which means that never existed ever. And that doesn't make sense because there should be some record.
And that's where splitting timelines come from.
Yeah. But what if that wasn't the case? What if it just didn't happen? That doesn't make sense, I think, to a human. Because we have an idea... I think it's probably because we wouldn't function if we didn't believe in the past.
Well...
Although the Aborigines of Australia didn't exactly.
There's the theory of a time machine that can only travel to the future. And the reason why isn't like, oh, some mumbo-jumbo, you just can't travel to the past because changing the past doesn't work. It's that it can't go to the past because if you go past and change something, then you don't have to go into the past and change it. So everything has already been changed by time travel, going back to time that already could be. So time machines can't go into the past because they've already have.
Yeah. But if they already have, then they can, right?
But they can't because you've already done it all.
Yeah, but if you go back in time to kill Hitler, right? You obviously didn't.
Yeah, well, we never have gone back in time to get rid of Hitler.
Maybe we did, but we didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there could be a time machine hidden under a trash can somewhere in the 1940s, but the people in the end decided not to do it.
Yeah.
Or they killed someone else, and Hitler took over. Mm. So I think time travel isn't ruled out at all in either direction. It's just it already happened, whatever happened.
Yes.
But how much is set in stone? Like, is Antarctica during World War II, can you do whatever you want there because nobody was paying attention, so you can mess around with whatever you like? Like, as long as nobody's looking, does it past? Does it be past? If there's no one to write it down in a history book, does it be past?
Nope.
I think it's history is only recorded. Yeah. So I think that you can travel to ancient Mongolia and do basically whatever you want because we don't have a record of it. And so everything kind of works out. So we can't travel to 1940 and punch Hitler in the face yet. But 10,000 years from now, we will be able to because nobody will know what happened back then.
Huh. I don't agree with you, but it's an interesting thought.
Well, has Hitler been punched in the face? Maybe he has already. And there's also the idea of, could you travel up to yourself and slap yourself upside the head as long as you didn't remember it? So once you're old enough, you can time travel and meet yourself.
So a lot of massive meanings about how stories are important, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, but stories are, like, we tell stories for a reason.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, in like animations or anything that has some loosey-goosey sci-fi rules, like really loosey-goosey, like Rick and Morty, Phineas and Ferb, even Thursday Next has a bit of this. There's like time police, right? Or it's like there's these fifth dimensional beings that like don't mess with time. And if you do too much time traveling, they'll come and beat you up and then they'll fix the timeline. Or if you do too much time traveling, they'll create tears in reality and then the timeline will start to collapse. So is this like an instinctual thing of us saying like don't mess with time? Or is it people saying don't talk about messing with time, punk, because it hurts other people's brains?
I think that time is probably a lot more resilient. I agree more with Terry Pratchett's line of thinking, like with the history monks, where they just make sure the major events line up and the rest can kind of be mixed around and it doesn't really matter. Like, you look at history, right? And a lot of events occur simultaneously, like the invention of calculus or other examples, of which there are many. There is a lot of simultaneous discoveries and inventions in history. And I can't think of any of them right now, basically. But I think that it doesn't matter who discovered calculus as long as it was discovered at the time it was. Yeah. So you could go back in time and like stick one of them in a bag, one of the inventors, and run away with them. And it'd be fine because the other one would still have invented it.
Or this is, I don't know, going to sound weird. So you know how a lot of people, like this was a lot more in the past as well, think that the pyramids were built by slaves. That was quite a common thing, like even history books had that.
Yeah.
But now we say that the pyramids were built by people who are basically getting a tax break.
Yeah.
As Egyptian people. So what if...
They were built by slaves until recently.
Yeah. What if the pyramids were built by slaves?
Yeah, the pyramids were built by slaves until the last 20, 30 years.
But a time traveler changed it.
Well, I don't think they even have to. I think we can just, change the past at will.
But,
like, it doesn't really matter in a way, does it? It changes all the time. Because, yeah, the pyramid used to be built by slaves for all we cared, and now it wasn't. And maybe it will be again. That'd be cruel, though, so maybe we shouldn't do that. Just leave it to not being built by slaves.
Yeah.
So maybe historical revisionism is actually...
So, if like enough people believe in something, it becomes a god, right?
I didn't actually.
But so what if the past is what people believe it is? Or is the past what people believe it is?
Yeah, but I think in a historical sense it definitely is. But I think in a physical sense it could also be. Because there's no reason that the tail of the snake can't move, right? Oh. Like you have a snake, imagine a snake vomiting, right?
Yeah.
Or like reverse engorging like a pig.
Okay.
And so the pig moving along the snake's body is the present, right?
Okay.
And so the present is the area with the most detail. But there's... And the past has less detail as it gets further and further away. But there's no reason that the tail and the back can't move. So I think that if you look at all of time as like a...
engorged, reverse vomiting snake.
Yeah. Or like a bean, right? Like there's no reason you can't shave a bit off the bean. Or like wiggle the snake's tail sort of thing as you go. And I think that, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't have to be resilient at all.
As long as it's the shape of a snake.
But the question is there a record? Like, you can see the track the snake leaves in the sand, right?
Yeah.
And so is there a dimension that everything is contained within? So the universe, which is everything, is contained within something, right? Which records its movement. So it's sort of like that idea of a set which contains... a set of all sets, including itself. No, that's not a bad one. So imagine a list of your favorite things, right?
Yeah.
I want to write a list of everyone on Earth's favorite things.
Yes.
And so I come up to someone and they say, what is your favorite thing? And the person says, anything that's not on that list. And so then I put that down on the list, and all of a sudden, it's on the list. And so it's not contained on the list. So there are sets that cannot contain themselves, and there are sets that cannot contain everything they set out to contain. But what if that isn't a flaw in mathematics or logic? What if that is the universe itself? So the entirety of everything is also contained within something.
Well, let me shave my head, bug out my eyes, and say that's entirely possible.
Okay.
I'm making.
I assume that's a reference
to Joe Rogan.
Oh.
He says that a lot, that it's entirely possible, and people like tell him some crazy theory or some
I don't
idea.
And like, so when like the universe wobbles, it like leaves waves in the meta universe, right? And I think that this meta universe could be the container of the history of the past, because the past keeps changing, but its change has a history. Like here's a way to look at it, much easier way than a snake vomiting backwards and everything. You have a book like Harry Potter, and you read to like halfway in the book, and then I go back and I change the name of the cat he meets at the start of the book to something else.
Yeah.
Well, there's no cat. I changed the name, so it's book 3, I believe. I changed the name of the bulldog, which is mentioned like twice.
Yeah.
Once you're halfway through the book, so it never comes up again. I have now changed the past, and it doesn't affect the future.
Yeah.
And so what you would then have is a list beside the book, which said this name changed from this to this. So you'd have a record of the change in the past, and the past changing doesn't affect the future. And you don't remember most of the book anyways, except for the bit you're reading at the moment. So it doesn't even matter if I change major details. Like, I could say that everyone died on page 2. Like, if you go back in time with a machine gun to, like, a point where humans are all trapped on an island together, all 10,000 humans, let's say.
Yeah.
And I machine gun all of them to death. That doesn't mean that 10 years from down the line they're not all doing fine. Because you could take a book and say they all die on page 2 and then just ignore that page, essentially. If history worked like a book, which it might if we're all imagination sort of thing, right? You know the stars, just to keep you off balance. So, the meaning of life, right? And stars. When you look up at the stars, this is important, right? You look up at the stars, and there are constellations.
Yes.
But the thing about constellations is nobody has drawn the lines, right? But you still see the constellations because someone told you about them. But you can make up your own lines easily, right?
Yes.
So the only reason the constellations matter is because we've decided they do.
Like most things.
And they could be different constellations, and those constellations would also matter. So it is not the constellation's shape that matters. It is the fact that we have constellations at all that matters. So if you want the meaning of life, it's to look at the choose your own constellation. I think it's pretty clear. So I'm actually like serious. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, I get what you're saying.
Like the
I'm
constellation.
just wondering where you're going with it, or if that's your end point.
The constellation only matters because it does, and if it didn't, it wouldn't. It's kind of like shooting God, I guess. But you get to choose. So every time you look up at the stars, you can draw your own lines. You know?
Yeah, no.
Do you want to link back to... let's see.
No. But
I think it is very...
It is what it is.
No, I think it's important. I think it's really important.
Is what it is does not degrade importance. It just simply notes the fact that it is what it is.
I think about death a lot. And it terrifies me. And I think what it is I've only ever come to one logical conclusion about death that is likely. Anything's possible, but there's only one I've seen that is likely. So I think a lot of thought is me trying to come up with something else that is possible. And if it's as equally likely, that gives you hope, sort of thing. But I think there's barriers that all meaning is lost once they're passed through. And there are trials nothing can prepare for. So it's almost ultimately futile, but it might not be because I haven't seen a reason to think my logical conclusion doesn't hold a lot of ground. And that doesn't get rid of anything else I've said about choosing the meaning of life or about time and everything being a 5-dimensional being, those can be the same concept. But the perception of time, I think, is life as we understand it.
Yeah. Life is observation.
Of time. Because a person who is dead yesterday isn't alive tomorrow. But they are yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't see time as meaningful, then the raisins in the bread are just the complete sum of the life. And you could say they repeat on endless, or they just were and that's that, and they're a formed gem of something. And it's weird if a crystal can see itself without eyes, but
I just feel like after that, there should be some meaning wave music playing with that. It's weird. The crystal can see itself.
And the crystal is the raisin, of course, but it grows within the earth.
Actually, no meaning wave music all that well.
So self-observation is very weird, if you think about it. Maybe it doesn't exist. What if we're all just looking at each other, and that's the only reason? We're all just figments of each other's imaginations, and that's the only reason we're standing here.
I don't appreciate being called a figment of your imagination. I mean,
like episode 7, right, of The Fool and the Philosopher. All we talk about is chickens for like the entire episode. And now that's not true, but it could be, because nobody remembers what it was about. And so they might think, okay, and then we could go and edit it in and delete the current one and put it in. So the past can be what we want it to be. And since nobody knows, it never was.
But we know that we changed it.
We would know, but maybe not forever. So this idea of a permanent record, I wonder, like black holes, right? I don't like black holes because
they destroy information.
They destroy information. But they
don't.
If you reverse time, they don't. There's a way to escape a black hole. You just have to go back in time.
Yeah.
So
do you think if you go near a black hole, you go back in time?
No. Maybe. But no. But wait. To where? You go backwards in time, but otherwise in space, I guess?
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. I have no reason to believe that, but that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of things like that. And any one of them is possible. But yeah, if information's destroyed, then it's gone forever. Like, if the entire universe eventually becomes a black hole, then none of it happened. Unless time counts.
However, we can even see the shadow of that information around a black hole, though. Because a black hole actually can't destroy information entirely, because something's permanently frozen in place when it hits the event horizon of a black hole for its own perspective.
Yeah, but it can't leave the black hole, so it's gone.
But it observes itself, because it's stuck there forever.
But if there's no one looking, then it doesn't.
If a tree falls in a forest and no one's there to hear it, does the tree hear itself?
I don't think so. Depends on the tree, I guess. But I don't...
If you die alone in a forest, did you die?
Well, that's the thing. Like, you were the only one watching, right?
Yeah.
This is actually really... This is...
If you die alone in a forest and no one knew you...
Well, this is the only logical conclusion about death, actually, is that time stops. Which is the same as nothing ever happening again. And time stops for you, not for everyone, just you, because you're the only one that cares about your present in a existential sense. You were the only one keeping yourself going.
Maybe death frees you from the conventions of time.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of possibilities, but there's no reason to think they are anything. There's no reason to think people are more than just a process that... a very complicated chemical reaction that eventually peters out.
Well, that's rather boring, isn't it?
It doesn't matter if it's boring or exciting.
I feel like it matters to me if it's boring or exciting. And I feel like me's enough for the mattering to matter.
But it doesn't change any conclusions about anything. And... like, if someone's swinging a baseball bat at your head, you can't dismiss it.
Well, it depends if I get hit or not, if I dismiss it.
But it's... you know with such certainty it's going to hit you that it'd be arrogant to assume otherwise. However, if the baseball bat was phasing in and out of existence, right? Like, you have no idea how arrogant it is to presume you know anything about the nature of baseball bats.
Yeah.
But, look, if you
right.
have an identical twin...
Right. So, you say when you die, right? Time stops. Okay? So, Baseball bat's going to hit you in the head. It's going to kill you. Right? So a person swings the baseball bat. As it connects, like even just as it slightly touches you, or not even touches you, but just right before, you're dead. So time stops right there. Right? And the baseball bat isn't hitting you. So the baseball bat hasn't hit you. So you can't know with certainty, because if time stops when you're dead, then the baseball bat could not hit you.
But it doesn't matter.
Why not?
Because time stopped. And life is the observation of the present, like I said.
Life as we know it.
Yeah.
How many things have you known that have turned out to be wrong? How many things have you not known and learned?
That's what I'm saying, is that I have never learned otherwise. And so that's what I try to do by exploring.
Mm.
And I still haven't seen anything otherwise.
Sounds like you have to do some hard drugs, brother.
I think you can lie to yourself about all sorts of things. And drugs can help with that. And I don't think they change anything. Like, you can have the nature of the universe revealed to you without drugs. Like, that happens to me all the time. And it doesn't mean it's true. And
so your observation of time stopping could be wrong. It's just you've never found otherwise.
Yeah.
But what lies so big that you can't help but tell yourself it?
Because I don't think you would cling to a lie if you had a lie you hated, unless you had an alternative that was better. So I had a dream that I was myself, and I was also over there. And then I was nothing, and I was the other one of myself. And that was death. It would just... When you turn off a computer for the last time, it never boots up again. But you have a copy of it on a different computer and it boots up, then you have the same thing, and it can observe itself dying without caring. And the original doesn't care either. It's very surreal, and that's what drugs do, right? They're you can't express it rationally because it was an irrational idea that was just a conceptualization, which you have to use words like to conceptualize. But
remember when we were kids, right? And we shared the same bedroom at our dad's house. And in the evening, we spent a lot of time talking, like a ton of time. It was kind of on the edge of ludicrous how much we talked. And sometimes we'd get up and get a drink of water, go to the bathroom. Every once in a while, or even just lying there and we're quiet. And then suddenly you get idea. So we'd tell each other that idea, right? I remember on several occasions, it's either coming back from the bathroom or one of us was talking and the other one couldn't. And this even happens now sometimes, but it's we had such a profound idea and it disappears, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is there the opposite of that? An idea appearing that you can't get rid of, and it's stuck in your head, and it appears to be the only truth that idea is. Because we used to joke about this, which is we had such a profound idea that some force made us forget it. I'm not even talking about some force made us forget, but is there something like that?
I don't know if you'd be able to say if it happened or not. But I don't think it really matters. Or, the idea matters. Or it doesn't. But for the purposes of a concept or of death, I don't think it changes the fact that a better idea hasn't come around.
Well, what if you can't see something as a better idea?
But what does that even mean? That,
Well, it's dogma.
That nobody's preaching. That you yourself don't want to believe. That you think that to understand anything would be the height of arrogance. And so you're probably wrong. And you hope you're wrong. And it's not about knowing. It's just about saying there's something behind that door and there's only one thing it can be. And that doesn't make sense. So what are the other things it could be?
Or maybe the door isn't real.
And that sounds like begging.
The door not being real?
You can avoid an issue by hoping it's... Most things are in your head. So it's not a terrible strategy. But someday you can't wish away the tiger that's chewing on your neck. And...
But what if the tiger never existed?
It doesn't matter because you're dead either way. The imaginary tiger can kill you just as good.
What if it can't?
And it did.
But it didn't.
Well, then you'd have to dismiss all of reality, and then you can't function.
But you can.
I don't think so, because you either have to operate within reality or not. And if you don't operate within reality, well, then whatever happens, happens, I guess. You can go on your crazy merry way. But if you choose to operate within reality, then things that happen to you are real by definition. You choose what you make real, but then you have chosen something to be real. And if you choose nothing to be real, then you are doing nothing and nothing matters.
So, are people who have such absolute faith in heaven lying to themselves? Or is it that that's the only logical idea that they can find, and anything else hasn't worked for them, even if they've discussed it for ages? And the only thing that works is heaven and hell.
I think it's probably both. I see the parallel, of course. I actually find it quite hard to believe anyone does believe in heaven. Right? Because here's the thing about heaven, right? You have identical twins. Then they go to heaven.
Yeah.
Like, which one gets in?
Both.
Okay, you stick a copy of the twin in a computer. And then, does the computer go to heaven? And then you stick the twin through a teleporter. And does the incinerated twin from the teleporter and the other twin go to heaven? And then the timeline splits. And do both of those twins go to heaven? And then does the ant you stepped on go to heaven? And do all the bacteria go to heaven? And if all those go to heaven, right? It'll be a very full place. And how do you, in a different timeline, talk to the person that was your best friend in one and the one you killed in the other? And how are you not wasting their time because they want to be talking to someone else who is also you?
Well, you're going on the presupposition that heaven is finite, which I don't think it is.
Right, but you're still... If you want a heaven, your concept of yourself as an individual has to change. You have to be a part of everyone.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only way it works, is if you're part of the 5-dimensional time creature. In which case, you have no need for a heaven because you already are, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's all just about being part of one being, then it just goes back to the whole universe is God playing hide and seek with themselves thing, right? Like, it's all just a very branchy, long, ugly bacteria that's billions of years old.
But the universe is God playing hide and seek with itself, right? Right. So, if you die, then why not play hide and seek a little bit more in heaven?
But then you would remove the concept of death if you have heaven, right? Because then it's just like the end of a toe of the infinite creature.
Yeah, so the door doesn't exist.
Yeah, but I mean, you would have to believe in the stuff I say for heaven to work, right?
Yeah.
Like the sausages and the sponges and the bread and the raisins, and that would all have to...
Yeah.
And does that seem rational to you in any way?
Seems pretty rational to me.
Because...
See, I have 3 ideas, right? On death. And I'm not exactly sure which one's right. But I'm interested to figure out which one it is. But that can wait because I'm alive right now. So, number 1 is that this is a game. And if such that is a game, then every single existence is a game. Because if one is game, then every is a game. It's just the best logic for that. And my thought of heaven when I was a kid is that you basically get to go where you want to go and do what you want to do. And while you're in heaven, you can go, hey, I want to have another go at this. And so you can start a new game and go down. And when you get to heaven, you've played thousands of games, or maybe you've played one game, and you get all the memories back from those games. That was my thought as a kid. And the people around you are other players. And maybe in that reality, you can die too, where you're playing all those games. But then you're in a new one. It's like, that was an interesting world where they basically had ours, where they can play a ton of games. So that's one thought on heaven, or death, anyways, as you end with that game. Different one is that you can't stop observing yourself, and thus death does not exist in a different sense, because while other people will die, you will never cease to observe yourself, and they'll never cease to observe themselves. And so immortality is guaranteed. And that's a kind of weird one that I don't know, because that seemed like multiple Pockean dimensions everywhere. diverging weirdness. And the final one is what I think most people find the scariest one. And I think it's what you probably, similar to what you think, although you say like observation of time stalls, and that's uncertainty. And uncertainty is that you have no idea what happens. Because a lot of people, I actually talk to this, think that you just go to sleep forever. But going to sleep is not a state of existence. You wake up after you're done sleeping. Going to sleep is only reality from waking up afterwards. Sleep is not a thing.
It's a memory.
Yeah, it's a memory. Sleep is what happens in between falling into it and waking up. It's like a very greased tube that you enter and exit. You can't stop partway through it. And it can be a pretty long tube, but you're always going to come out the other end. You know, like those tubes in like the ball pits and stuff, you know, like the big toys. And
hope they're not greased.
Well, I'm just saying it's like very, very slippery. It could be frictionless, or it's a slide or something. Like you get out the other end, and if you don't get out the other end, then you can't ever enter it. It has to have an end you can get out to enter it. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. So I find the sleep one kind of silly, and I find the sleep one very similar to the thought of oblivion, kind of silly. Because if you're here, then where do you go? But then where were you beforehand? And that's a little freaky. And maybe existence is the sleep in between not existing. And that's kind of weird.
Well, that's exactly what I think, though. There's a metaphor of a bird in the dark flies into a house through one open window and out another open window. For a brief flash of time, there's light, but there's darkness forever before and forever ahead.
So, why can't the bird hit another house?
Why not?
Because there was a house beforehand, why can't it turn around and go back through?
Why not?
Well, exactly. Why not for both?
I'm not entirely sure what we're talking about.
Death?
Yeah, I don't think I was.
I think you were.
No, I'm talking about something else. Because I have a lot of ideas about what could be. And I think they're very fun and interesting to talk about. And I think a lot of them have a lot of merit and make a lot of sense. So I don't need more in that sense. They're interesting to talk about, of course, so I like to. And conceptualizing is interesting. But what I was talking about isn't needing an explanation. It was...
Can I guess that what it was? So, from what I understood anyways, is you were saying that you're basically talking about how we talk about all these ideas, but there's only one idea that you've observed with logical certainty, and no matter what else you talk about, that one is always the most true one, and the other ones don't work in the shadow of it.
No.
Or then that's like the only one that is logically there.
No.
Because from what you said, I'm going to just keep talking here. It sounded like to me that you're saying people who think there's heaven or think there's a different answer are lying to themselves. And basically the whole thing I went through is I was giving the 3 examples of what I think are fundamentally the truth in this context of what we were talking about from what I understood you communicated to me. That seems like we've been talking about 2 different things entirely and completely misunderstood each other. And I am very confused as to when and where that happened.
When you thought I was talking about death, I think.
But you were. That's what this whole conversation has been about. You even prefaced it by saying, I've think about death a lot.
Yeah, but I wasn't talking about death.
Were you talking about thinking about death a lot?
Yeah. So
the whole conversation we went into that you started was you talking about your thoughts on death, and now I'm very confused.
No, so what I was talking about more, I think, was that you can't know anything. And
I'll agree with you on that.
And so any certainty is lying to yourself. But
there's a paradox there.
I don't think so.
Yeah, there is. You just made it paradox.
No, because...
No, you can't know anything.
Yeah.
But, so you can't know anything, and so you can't know anything for certain. But can you know for certain you can't know anything? Or is that the one thing you can know, is you don't know anything besides that?
Yes.
So you know something.
Yes. I know one thing, and it is that I know nothing. So
Except that one thing.
I am the wisest man in Athens. Yeah. That's what Socrates said. No, so it's like... No, what I was trying to get at here, maybe if I do it in a different way. If you step out of an airplane, you're pretty sure you're going to hit the ground.
Yeah.
But you don't know where you're going to land.
Okay.
And so the better your geography is, the more places you can think of that you'll land.
Right.
And you're pretty sure it'll involve water. The odds are in favor. But there's a lot more to the earth than water. And you don't even know what the results of hitting the water would be. So when talking about the nature of existence, I know about all the water, let's say. There might be water. But I'm curious what else there is. But it's not a gentle or fun curiosity. Like, it really shouldn't matter. Like, if you're like, well, there's a 45% chance I'll hit ocean, and there's a 30% chance I'll hit a desert, and there's a 10% chance I'll hit jungle. Like, it really shouldn't matter. Like, knowing the odds doesn't actually help you in any way. You're going to land when you're going to land. But I like to know the options. Not even the options, the possibilities.
Okay. I was not getting that at all.
So, and I only have one right now, which is incomprehensible. Literally. I used comprehend a lot. Probably because that's what we're discussing. But it's... And so... And everything is tied back to that same thing. Like, I think the idea of oblivion, time stopping, whatever, is the same idea as an all-inclusive heaven, because then everything is one and one is everything, and therefore all is part of the same thing, and therefore it has edges, and lives are the edges. And so it's all part of the same concept of oblivion, because oblivion is the idea of the end of observation. And so a thing with edges has a point on which it ends. And so I'd like to know if there's things that are less edgy out there.
Well,
because the universe is far too much of a goth.
Isn't the Infinite Turtles without edge?
Who are they?
If it's just a game?
Yes. That one is, actually. But that one that's terrifying in a different sense. That's a sense of scale that is mind-numbing to a degree, which is... The other thing is you still lose all your relationships. It kind of sucks. Because in a universe that's that vast, you will never find your way back to where you were. And everything you ever knew is just a memory. And it would also be weird that... I guess everyone has to enter stage 1 at some point.
Yeah.
But it's also... Well, it's like the odds of being in stage 1 are infinitesimally small, right? Like, yeah. the odds of being at the edge of infinity are impossibly low.
Yeah.
But if you have to start from the beginning, then that's where you will be until you've seen the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that is a second option.
And there's also the other one, which I said, which is infinity.
Well, no, that is infinity, though, isn't it?
I guess so. So there's oblivion and infinity.
Yeah, and I think that neither are true, because those moments of enlightenment that you were talking about, they happen all the time, and they're, I think, for most people, especially when they're doing drugs, but they don't have to be. And I think all they are is a realization that you can't express most things. Like, the reason that they fade isn't because you forget them. I think you remember them as clearly as they were. You just eventually realize that there's no foothold because they were never real to begin with. Your enlightenment was a feeling, not a hypothesis.
Mm.
And that's why we use words like and interesting, because we're not based in reality. We're based in feelings. And by feelings, I don't mean emotions. I mean, like, if an object is holy, or if it is ancient, or if it is venerable, however you pronounce that word. Venerable, yeah. Objects contain power, like you said, words.
Yeah.
That's how humans work, is that objects contain power.
And that's why choosing your own name is weird. You're destroying the power of your existence.
I don't know, I think Okay, this will sound really weird, right? But you know the game, like
just before that, third option of because you said neither are right, but of oblivion and infinity. What if it's a bit like yin and yang? Well, if there's infinity within oblivion.
Yeah. Well, it's either like that or it isn't. Unless it's not.
Or what if there's oblivion and infinity?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I say it's neither option because anything you can say is wrong.
How dare you?
Not me, on the other hand. No. But you were talking about choosing your own name.
Yeah.
And this is a weird connection, but the game is life.
Yeah.
Where once you die, you wake up in a higher level of existence, basically. Mm-hmm. Some variant of that. That could also be considered a variant of a heaven, in a sense. Or a Matrix-like scenario.
Yeah.
That is very similar for some reason, in my mind, to changing your name. Because you have taken the reins of reality for yourself, I think.
You get.
And it's not a bad thing. But, you're riding a storm. You realize your actions are meaningless and you are all-powerful. Because of that. Like, you have finite power until you're powerless, and then you're all-powerful.
And therefore, I shall rename you Filbert.
Like, if you look at a timeline, right? Like a number line, you could put infinity at 0, and then have it loop back around.
Yeah.
Of course, if you go backwards, you have a problem where suddenly you're at infinity minus 1. I guess you just say infinity minus 1.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all, but it makes a lot of sense somehow. Like, I don't even know what I'm saying, but it makes...
It's deep, man.
Well, that's the thing, it's just nonsense, isn't it? So once you think about it again, you're like, wait, this is nothing. And that's where those ideas go. You don't forget them. They just never were. It doesn't mean they're wrong, or they're bad, or they're not useful. It's just saying things.
Paying up for time.
No?
You gotta get the 2 hour in.
Well, I got a lot more to talk about. So, careful what you wish for if you want.
Is that a threat?
Oh, I can keep going.
I can't.
I've got a whole list I can go and look at.
Well, at least I gave you a 1 second wrong option.
Maybe.
I'll take a maybe.
Probably not.
I'll take a probably not.
No?
I won't take a no.
But I think the thing is
the cup half empty or half full?
It doesn't...
Or is there no cup?
No matter how fast you run around your house, you'll never make it to the store. There's layers.
Nope. You only get the how fast or I cut all of that. We have a different ending.
It wasn't just insanity. It had meaning behind it, which I can explain.
Nope, you're not allowed to explain. Explaining will take another 20 minutes.
Fine.
And you explain the same concept again in different words. You explain the same concept you've explained time and time again, yet again in different words.
No, this one's different.
Alright, running around a house. You'll never get to the store if there's layers.
No matter how many times you add numbers together, right?
This isn't related to the layers or the running around in a house.
Yeah, it is. You'll never divide. Like, no matter how much addition you do, you'll never divide. You can talk about something and think about something on one level forever, but you're never... What are you doing?
Well, you seem to be saying go jump out a window.
No, I'm not. What, how does he get that?
I'll explain it later when you're older.
I'm older.
Not old enough.
But if you...
It's all good and well to ponder what the water feels like, but dipping your toes in will actually let you know.
Not quite. I mean, I think that's true, but that's not...
Or pondering will never get your toes wet.
No, you have to ponder in the right way. Like, you can't talk about...
Dipping your toes into lava, wondering if they'll get wet.
I don't know. You can't... You can't talk about there are degrees of language that are more useful than others. So a normal conversation will convey less powerful ideas than metaphors, and metaphors will convey less powerful ideas than mathematics. And to continue a discussion, another way to look at it is, imagine you're counting from 1 to 10, and you choose every number between 1 and 2, right? So you go like 1, 1.0000000 forever, 1, 1.000 forever, 2, 1. You'll never get to 10. But you can also go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yes. Yes, you can.
Yes. And you can also count to 10 by going 1, 10.
Yes.
There are higher level ways to do things.
Not on every single one of them, you still get to 10.
So, you know transgenderism, right? It's an illness, obviously. But there's a large argument about whether it's a physical or a mental illness.
Okay.
I just thought that's kind of interesting, isn't it? That at the end of the day, like it was removed from the DSM-5, but as a mental illness. But that means it has to be a physical illness. Mm-hmm. So it hasn't stopped being an illness. So you're not actually helping anyone by removing fields of inquiry into treating it. Mm-hmm. And our capacity to help people's minds is amazing, whereas our capacity to help people's bodies is terrible. So you're really taking the hard route there, and maybe you have to, but we can't ever be certain, and by shutting down that whole line of reasoning... What?
So are you advocating electrical...
Yes, that's, sometimes... Yeah.
I think I get what you're saying, and you've said it 30 different ways, and I got it the second one.
Wait, what am I saying?
If you have peanuts, right?
Yeah.
And you eat the peanuts.
Yeah.
You've eaten whole peanuts. But you can crush the peanuts into dust, and you can eat the dust. Now you can eat the peanut one peanut at a time, or you can eat every grain of dust at a time. But at the end of it, you've eaten all the peanuts. And you started with the amount of peanuts you had in both times, even when you crushed them to dust. And if you crush them more, you can turn them into oil. And then you can drink the oil. One bit of oil at a time.
I don't think that'll help them. Because, pulverizing transgender people might solve some problems. But I really think that you could get all sorts of humanitarian questions raised. If I understand what you're saying correctly here.
So you do. Good.
Alright,
that's all we have for today. So, thank you very much for listening. And we'll catch you all next time.
I don't think you understood what I was.
Then. Goodbye.